What is thermal putty? Hey, I'm Snark from Snark's Domain, and today we're going down the rabbit hole that is thermal putty. Thermal putty is an alternative to using traditional thermal pads on video cards and other devices. It's already starting to displace pads in devices such as EVGA's 30 series video cards, many modern gaming laptops like Lenovo's and Acer's, PlayStation 5's, various 7000 series video cards from AMD, and a growing list of other devices. Why choose putty? Well, it's very soft, so it steals less of the mounting force from the CPU and GPU core. This allows a phase change material to get much thinner with a combination of heat, pressure, and time. This improves core cooling and can also help reduce hotspot deltas. Using putty also eliminates the need to buy 4 different thicknesses of pads. But the best part about putty is that it matches and often outperforms traditional thermal pads in cooling VRAM and VRMs. For a time, thermal putty enthusiasts were all using TGPP10 to cool the GDDR6X VRAM that came on the NVIDIA RTX 30 series GPUs. But on April 19th, 2022, it was discontinued. This left a void that needed to be filled. We did not want to go back to pads. This began the hunt for alternatives. In June of that year, I started testing different thermal putties out. I started off using a hot plate test apparatus of my own design. The faster the top copper block reached 100 degrees Celsius, the better performing the thermal putty was. Next, I built Testbench 1, starting off with the Zotac 3070 Ti Amp Hollow Edition, and applying each putty between the VRAM and the cooler. I would then mine Ethereum for 1 hour with fixed clock values and fan speed, and compare the memory junction temperatures. I built the chart on the left using this setup. Wanting to improve on my test accuracy, I built Testbench 2.1 and added temperature sensors in front of the GPU intake fans. I ran 2-hour-long tests and used HWinfo 64 to log all temperatures, including the ambience. I then entered the log data into an Excel spreadsheet to quickly calculate average ambient delta temperatures for the last hour, with a sample rate of every 2 seconds. I live streamed the putty applications and chatted in real time as I handled them, offering my candid opinions. The charts show how the putties performed. Soon, I'll be moving over to Testbench 3, which also logs ambient temperatures, but will have those ambient sensors calibrated regularly. I'll be using an RX 6800, which has memory temperature sensors with 20 times the resolution as the NVIDIA 3070 Ti did. We'll have linear airflow from the front of the case to the back. This should help to further improve test accuracy, and give us an opportunity to build yet another chart, because hey, why not? In the meantime though, let's go over each putty that I tested on Testbench 2.1. Here we have Honeywell HT10000 thermal putty. It has very good performance. With the calipers I measured, a layer as thin as 0.17 millimeters. It's gray in color. It's soft, it's tacky. You can hand roll it. You can use the syringe or the spreader, whichever method you prefer. This is Upsiren UTP-8. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.14 millimeters. It's pink in color, soft, it's tacky. You can either hand roll it, syringe, or use the spreader. This is Fehonda LTP81. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.14 millimeters. It's gray in color. It's soft. It's tacky. You can do hand rolling, syringe, or spreader applications. This is Upsiren UX Pro Ultra. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.15 of a millimeter. It's gray in color. It's somewhat soft. It's tacky, a little bit on the drier side, but still a little bit tacky. And you can hand roll it, syringe, or spreader. This is Laird T-Putty 910. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.16. It's pink in color. It's soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it or use the syringe or the spreader. This is Thermal Grizzly Putty Pro. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.16 of a millimeter. It's gray. It's very soft. It's on the clingy side. You still can hand roll it though, or use the syringe or paste spreader. This is EVGA Putty. It has very good performance. It can squish down to 0.16 of a millimeter. It's gray in color. It's soft, leaning on almost very soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it, use the syringe or a spreader. But you can't buy this anymore. As far as I know, it's been discontinued. So, yeah. We'll miss you, EVGA Putty. This is Penchem TH949-1. It is very good performance. It can squish down to 0.07 millimeters, which is kind of surprising for me. It's gray in color. It's soft. It's tacky. Also, this sample has been tested 3, maybe 4 times by now. And then been taken apart, salvaged, retested again on different test benches. So it's also a few years old. Still soft. Still hand formable. You can hand roll it. You can apply it with a syringe or a spreader. But honestly, I think hand rolling is the way to go. This is Fehonda LTP65. It has good performance. It can squish down 2.15 millimeters. It's white in color. It's soft. It's tacky. And you can hand roll it, use the syringe or a spreader. This is Laird T-Putty 607. It has good performance. It's squished down to 0.14 of a millimeter. It's blue in color. It's soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it, use the syringe or the spreader. This is CX H1300, the 13.5 watt version. This is a recent batch. It is it's good performance. It can squish down to 0.11 millimeters. The color ranges from pink, like a bright pink, all the way to pink orange, to like a rustic orange. So the color changes depending on the batch. Lately, it has been quite stiff in comparison to how it used to be. It is somewhat tacky. It's actually kind of on the drier side. You can still make it stick. It's definitely hand rollable, and it'll still stick on enough to do an application on the card. Yeah, you can hand roll it. You could use a syringe. It's going to take a bit more force. I'm hesitant to say that's not an option. It's just very stiff. And you could obviously use a spreader if you wanted to. The original batch of this stuff actually performed about 2 degrees better than this one does. So, yeah, hopefully they fix that. This is Computer Systems GR version of UX Pro Ultra. It has good performance. It has a minimum thickness of 0.15 millimeters. It's gray in color. It's soft. It's tacky. You can roll it by hand, use a syringe, or a paste spreader. This is Upsiren U6 Pro. It has good performance. It can squish down to 0.11 millimeters. It's pink in color. It's soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it. You can apply it with a syringe or a paste spreader. This is Thermal Grizzly Putty Advance. It has good performance. Can squish down to 0.12 of a millimeter. It's blue in color. It's very soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it, use the syringe, or a paste spreader. This is Halnziye HY256. It's the green variation of Halnziye's HY206 line of product. It has good performance. It can squish all the way down to 0.03 of a millimeter, maybe even 0.02. And that's on my calibrated Mitutoyo calipers. So it's green in color. It's very soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it still. You can apply it with a syringe or a spreader. This is Halnziye HY236. It's the pink version of the HY206 line. It's got good performance. It can also squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. Pink in color, very soft, tacky. It can be hand rolled, applied with a syringe or a spreader. This is Zezzio ZT-PY6. It has good performance. It can also squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. Pink in color. It's very soft. It's tacky. You can hand roll it or use the syringe or paste spreader. This is Jeyi 8100. It has good performance. It squishes down to 0.1 of a millimeter. It's pink in color. It's very soft and it's tacky. So you can hand roll it, use a syringe or a spreader. This is T-Global A7000. It has good performance. It can squish down to 0.12 of a millimeter. It's green in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You can't hand roll this stuff. You have to use a syringe or a paste spreader. Hey, this is T-Global TG6060. It's okay performance. Sorry, minimum thickness gets down to 0.09 of a millimeter. It's blue in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You can't roll this by hand. You got to use a syringe or a spreader. Yeah. This is Penchem TH855-5. It's got okay performance. Minimum thickness 0.11 millimeters. It's gray in color. It's very soft. It's tacky. And you can hand roll it or use a syringe or a paste spreader. Also, this sample has been tested 3 or 4 times and is a few years old.
So if you get a fresher batch, it might just be a little bit softer, but honestly, yeah, it's holding up good. This is LiPoly SH-putty3. It's got okay performance, minimum thickness 0.1 of a millimeter. It's gray in color, it's soft, tacky. You can hand roll it, use a syringe or a spreader. This is Penchem TH930. It's got okay performance. Its minimum thickness is 0.8 of a millimeter. It's white in color. It's soft, tacky, and you can hand roll it, use a syringe or a paste spreader. This particular sample has been tested 3 or 4 times and is a few years old, and it's still holding up good. This is Thermal Grizzly Putty Basic. It's got okay performance. It can get down to 0.11 of a millimeter. It's pink in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You can almost roll it. No, you need a syringe or a spreader. Pretty close to being able to hand roll it though. All right, this is T-Global TGPP10. This is the putty that kind of started it all for me. This is what made me go down the rabbit hole, and that's why you guys are all here, is because this putty, whether you know it or not. It's got okay performance compared to the putties of today. It used to have what we considered to be the best performance at the time, or at least I did. I think many of you did as well. It can squish down to 0.08 of a millimeter. It is white in color. It's soft and tacky. You can roll it by hand, or use a syringe, or like I used to do, icing piping bag. This will bring back memories for you guys. Or a spreader if you really wanted to. This putty is fresh out of this piping bag, so that, like, yeah, it hasn't gone through lots of tests and cycles of heat or whatever. And this is what, a few years old now, so still doing good. It's discontinued. You can't buy TGPP10 anymore. So yeah, a little bit of putty history for you. This is LK Pro. It's got okay performance. It can squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. Pink in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You can't hand roll this at all. I'm not going to bother. Well, I'll smear a little bit just for fun, but yeah, you'll have to use a syringe or a paste spreader. You won't be able to hand roll this. This is CX-H1300, the 8-watt version. Not that we actually think ratings are real these days. It's what I consider to have bad performance. It can squish down to 0.1 of a millimeter. Color is ranging kind of pink to orange. I've only bought one batch of this. I don't really plan on buying more. It's soft, it's tacky, and you can hand roll it, or apply it with a syringe or a spreader. All right, this is OCNG's OCP10 thermal putty. It's got what I consider to be bad performance, but it can squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. It's pink in color, it's soft, it's tacky, you can hand roll it, or use a syringe or paste spreader. This is Halnziye HY234. It's the pink variant. of the HY204 lineup. It's got bad performance. It can squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. It's pink in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You can't spread this by hand. You're going to have to use a syringe or a paste spreader. This is Subzero 7 LTP15. It's got bad performance. The minimum thickness it gets down to is 0.03 of a millimeter. It's blue in color. It's paste-like. It starts off wet. You can't hand roll this at all. I did find some in the syringe that was still soft. And the syringe is like sealed with a cap, right? But the stuff that I tested on the card for 24 hours or so, or whatever it was, it's cured into this like rubber-like consistency, but also the bits that are open to the air have cured. This is cured harder than it was after I tested it. It was still like kind of soft, but like clumpy. And now everything in the container, even in the little nooks and crannies, has started to cure. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend using most of the products at the bottom end of the chart. I would absolutely not recommend using this stuff unless you want to glue your card together, maybe semi-permanently. It'll be hard to get the card apart, I think, especially if you leave it for more than a day. You know, maybe a couple weeks, you'd still get it apart. I don't know after that. Hard to say. It depends on how much load you have. Don't use this stuff. It's crappy. That's all I got. All right, this is MA-ANT DR-2. It's got very bad performance. It can squish down to 0.03 of a millimeter. It's pink in color. It's very soft and clingy. You can't roll this. You're going to have to use a syringe or a spreader. This is MG Chemicals 860. It's got very bad performance. It can squish down to 0.02 of a millimeter, maybe even a bit more. It's white in color. It is paste-like. It's wet. Yeah, you can't apply this by hand. You're going to have to use a syringe or a spreader. I would not be surprised if this is one of the base chemicals of other putties or some other putties. It does have a 5-year shelf life. All right, this is Computer Systems GR's K5 Pro. It's got very bad performance. Minimum thickness is 0.03 of a millimeter. It's white in color. It's very soft. It's clingy. I think this is one that this sample specifically I've tested a couple times, so it's, I actually think it's harder than it initially started, but yeah, I wouldn't consider this hand formable or rollable at all. You'll have to use a syringe or a spreader. This is Computer Systems GR's version of U6 Pro. Performance is very bad. Minimum thickness is 0.05. I actually assumed that it was going to have the same thickness as K5 Pro, but they must have actually tried putting a bit more, like maybe larger size grains. I'm not sure. Either way, color, it's kind of like a orangish pink color. It's very soft. It's clingy. You wouldn't be able to roll this by hand. Yeah, you'll have to use a syringe or a spreader. This is Slice Engineering's Boron NItride paste. It probably shouldn't be on this list simply because it's not marketed as a thermal pad replacement. And this is also like a beta version of the product. I'm pretty sure they changed stuff and then re-released. I believe I got this one either in late 2021 or early 2022, I want to say. Either way, I tested it and the performance was very bad. Minimum thickness 0.03 millimeters. It's white in color. It's paste-like. It's wet. And yeah, you wouldn't be able to hand roll this. You'd have to have a syringe. I think it would be difficult to use a spreader. It's also really like light and foamy. You know what it reminds me of is whipped cream for some reason. It also cures when I put this in this form anyways, in the test card and then ran it through the cycles and then took it apart again. It was rock hard, like it had been baked like a cookie. So that being said, this was an early version, and I've also read or discussed with someone, they were saying that you have to like slowly heat it up and let it off gas, and then it actually remains like stable and won't harden. I'll have to try that at some point maybe, now that I've got a 3D printer. This might be great stuff for 3D printing at the hot end. It's just not a good thermal pad, so it doesn't have to be a good thermal pad. It's not trying to be, unlike some other products, you know. Anyways, that's the last of the products that I've tested so far. Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for the putties that I've tested so far. If you want to learn a few different ways of applying thermal putty, then check out this video guide below, link in the description. If you want to know how much thermal putty you need for your device, a general guide is as follows. Laptops, buy 20 grams. Video cards, you're going to use between 30 and 75 grams. An NVMe M.2 drive, you're probably going to want to buy 10 grams. You'd probably use like 6 or 7. But you can also use my thermal putty calculator if you happen to know the pad or gap dimensions. I'll put that link in the description as well. You can find some of the best thermal putties at online retailers, including AliExpress, Amazon, eBuy7, DigiKey, Mauser, Newegg, Lazada, Temu, and probably lots of other ones I haven't heard of before. If you're thinking of switching to thermal putty and you want a bit of extra advice, you should head on over to the Discord server, link in the video description, and there's lots of helpful folks there that can help give you a bit of advice, answer any questions you guys might have about thermal putty, about phase change material, all sorts of stuff, copper shims, you name it. We're kind of like typically video card, but also laptop cooling enthusiasts. Like RAM heat sinks, NVMe drive heat sinks, putty for everything. It's great. I love it on motherboard VRMs. Now I'm getting carried away. You guys should go check out the Discord. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the video description that you can do that if you wanted to. I think that's it for me, guys, for today. I hope you take the plunge on thermal putty. I hope we see you over on the Discord server. Welcome to the rabbit hole. This is Snark with Snark's Domain, and it's been a blast. You guys have a great day, and Happy New Year.